Hey guys, how's it going? So, my name is Hamza Zafar, and today I'm going to be showing you exactly how I make $60,000 a month on Airbnb without owning any property whatsoever. A few months ago, I was featured on Term Rental Airbnb podcast on how I basically am growing my business, and this was back in about January of early 2021. And since then, I've had so many people reach out to me, so many people watch that video. I think it has almost 6,000 views now, mentioning me on Instagram, Facebook, on basically, do you have more content, more information on how you basically started your business, how you scaled your business, your tech stack. There's so many different questions people have had, so I decided basically I'm going to start my own YouTube channel and give people the information that I used on how to start this business and expand it to 21 properties between Philadelphia and Dallas, Texas, and how I generate $60,000 a month passively, fully automated, while not even living in the United States currently. Now, some quick background about me before we get started. So, I went to the University of Windsor. I have a 4-year degree in electrical engineering with a minor in computer science, and I currently work as an engineer, and I have been for the last 3 years. In 2019, August, I got married, and about 3 weeks later, when I came back from my honeymoon, me and my wife moved to Philadelphia at that time, while working as an engineer the whole time. In about 2020, November, is when we really started this business and when it really took off. I was always interested in real estate. I was always reading Bigger Pockets. I was always interested in the BRRRR method. I was always interested in passive income. So in 2019, to begin my real estate journey, I bought a duplex for $175,000 in Windsor, Ontario. That duplex was a complete shit show and needed complete renovation. I spent about $100,000 to renovate it, so I was in the hole for about $275,000, and I was renting it out per bedroom to students for about $600 per bedroom. At that time, I was making $3,600 a month, fully passive, students, no problem, no headaches. It was very easy money. It was very good. Now, what happened was when COVID hit and COVID came, all these international students, they basically flew back to India and flew back to their country where they came from. And I basically was left with the problem of having empty vacant rooms. I could go and try to rent it again to regular tenants, but I didn't want to do that. So what I decided was I was going to put the rooms on Airbnb and see what Airbnb would do for me. To my surprise, my monthly cash flows went from $600 per bedroom to almost $800 to $1,000 per bedroom. That was very surprising to me that there's actual Airbnb demand in the small city that I'm from in Canada. And at that time, I'm living in Philadelphia while all this is happening. So I decided, why not I start this business in Philadelphia? Here's the big problem. All the houses in the area where I was living were around $800,000 to $600,000. I did not have a 20% down for an $800,000 house. And even then, the monthly rent you would get for an $800,000 townhouse or $600,000 townhouse ranged from $2,500 to $3,500. So the cash return wasn't that great, and the risk was much higher, and it was very, very slow, right? How long does it take to save up $150,000 to $250,000 in cash? So I needed to figure out a way where I can basically acquire property, put it as a short-term rental without actually buying it. Then I came across, as everyone knows, 𝐭𝐡𝐢𝐤𝐞 from Airbnb Automated, and I watched a couple of his videos. The business model looked really promising, and it looked really enticing, and the surprising fact was he was living in Philadelphia, and I was living in Philadelphia. Now, when I looked into Sean's background and saw that he had a background, he had a degree in music, and he had a media company, I realized that, listen, I have an engineering background, I'm a very tech-savvy person, I'm a hustler, I can do the same thing he's doing, so why not go for it and try it? And that's what I did. Me and my wife started this business officially started this business in October of 2020. I spent all day, all weekend long watching every single video I possibly could about Airbnb and understand the business model, understand how it works. Now, at the end of the day, you can learn as much as you want online, but unless you actually do it yourself, you're not really going to learn much. So what I did was I called landlords. I cold called as many people as I possibly could and explained to them, listen, this is my business. I want to acquire a property to use for my own purposes as a short-term rental. And after a few 30, 40, 50 phone calls of getting no's, finally I had one landlord say yes to me. It was a 4-bedroom townhouse in Philadelphia renting for around $2,200 a month. My business proposition was, since your townhouse has been sitting empty for the last 3 months, I will take it over and pay the rent that you're agreed upon, no problems whatsoever, but you have to give me full legal authorization to operate it as a short-term rental on Airbnb for my business. He had no problems whatsoever, and it was a favorable agreement for both parties. So when I had my first deal for my first property, I explained to this landlord how the business really works. I rent the property from this landlord for $2,300. I market it on Airbnb. Let's say I make $4,600. My utilities, my internet, my gas, electric, water is about $300. So my all-in cost break even every month around $2,600. If I'm making $4,600 as my gross revenue, your average net profit for that unit is going to be around $2,000. That is really how rental arbitrage works. Now, me and my wife, we wanted more experience with Airbnb, and we decided that we're gonna rent out each room on Airbnb instead of the whole house. That way we have more guests coming in and we can learn more, we can learn the process more. And that's what we did. We spent that first whole month in October really just learning the system, literally learning how Airbnb works. We were renting 4 bedrooms at that time in that townhouse. We were making around $40 to $60 per night per bedroom. Some rooms were making a little bit more. And in that first month of October, we generated around $46 to $4,800. And this is like in the peak, I wouldn't say the peak lockdown, but it was like in general lockdown phase. So when that happened and we realized, the potential here is huge, I decided, I'm like, all right, we have to take this business and expand it and grow it to as big as we possibly can. Because we knew the ins and outs, we were getting almost 4 new guests every single day. We were doing all the cleaning ourselves. We started everything ourselves, furnishing everything ourselves. We were basically hands-on. We were learning everything as we were doing it, right? And I tell everybody, you can learn everything online, but unless you actually do something yourself, you're not really going to understand how it works, understand the business model to it. So when we started now in November, I basically dedicated my time while I'm working my engineering job to start cold calling landlords, cold calling owners, apartment complexes, and individual landlords, and just striking deals, making things happen. In October, we landed our first 2 units. Our first unit was a studio. The rent was $1,000 a month, and our second unit after that was around $1,450 a month, and it was a 1-bedroom in downtown Philadelphia. That first unit that we had, me and my wife, I remember to this day, we're driving to IKEA, ordering from Amazon, ordering from Wayfair, driving to Walmart, 6 trips to IKEA, things we're forgetting, things we're buying, and spending all night, just us two, eating pizza, building furniture all night long. It was one of the best times I've ever had with my wife. So when we did that, we really learned, all the time it takes to get a unit furnished, all the time it takes to get a unit ready, all the amenities that are needed, all the different things that are needed in your unit to basically have an Airbnb ready. Now fast forward to December, we have about 3 properties with another 2 that are going to be starting in the middle of December. At this point, these 3 properties, me and my wife were cleaning everything ourselves. My nickname my wife gave me was the bathroom boy. I was, the person that would go in and clean all the bathrooms. She would do all the beds. I would do the kitchen. And we really basically learned what it takes to clean an Airbnb unit properly, because as everyone knows, cleanliness is the number one thing. As we both started, getting more into the day-to-day operations, we realized that we can't really expand this business if we're, wasting time every day cleaning these units ourselves. So we have to get a team and have to expand. So this is what I did. I realized that if I hire a cleaning company, they would charge me anywhere from $60 to $100 per cleaning session, which is a lot because that's really more than the daily rate at that point. And at that time, during COVID, when everything was locked down, business was really slow. So the only competitive advantage you really had was price. So you had to really offer a deep discounted price, and it was really hard if your cleaning fee was anywhere from $80 to $120 per unit. So what we did was we found a cleaner, and we realized that for her to have enough work during the week, we have to give her more units. So what I really did was I decided, I'm like, all right, we're at 3 units right now. We have to blitz scale this as fast as possible. And that's what I did. Long story short, call as many landlords as possibly could over that time period, call as many property managers, property owners, and expanded all the way to 10 units by the end of December, really. By January 1st, we were at about 9 to 10 units, I think it was in Philadelphia at that time. So fast forward to January, we now have this team. We have about 10 properties in Philadelphia, we have a main housekeeper, and then underneath that main housekeeper, we have 3 other cleaners. These cleaners now are basically working underneath that main housekeeper, and that main housekeeper is managing everybody else. I set up the system where I basically have my main housekeeper, she gets paid $15 an hour, the other housekeeper gets paid $12 an hour. That way I can keep my costs low, I can offer a cleaning fee for much less, and get more bookings in that sense. So now I have my system in place where if anything happens, the housekeepers don't call me, they don't reach out to me, they all talk to my main housekeeper, the supervisor, and then she calls me and talks to me if anything happens or anything needs to get done. Now, one thing that I did notice at this time was a lot of people were having a lot of success in Florida and Texas on Airbnb, mainly because those states never locked down, there were never no mask mandates, and everything was really open. So I decided I wanted to expand to either Texas or Florida, and I decided, you know what, let's expand to Texas. So I flew to Dallas, Texas, I made some calls, I talked to people, did a lot of networking, and I finally found my first batch of 6 units in Dallas, Texas. When this happened, me and my wife flew down to Texas, we made the deal happen, and we basically started the process of getting all these units furnished. Then all of a sudden, the big storm hit in Texas. Everything's delayed, nothing's coming in on time. We're burning money this month, we're paying rent for all these units. We're losing our head here, and finally I decided, listen, you need to go fly to Dallas. You need to go live there for a month to get everything set up and get everything ready, to hire the right people, hire the right cleaners, get the team that we built in Philly and duplicate it in Dallas. Except you have to do it by yourself, because I have a full-time job at this point. I can't be going there. So I sent my wife to live in Dallas by herself. She spent about a week there at the apartment complex with these first 6 units. She set up everything herself. She hired the furniture builders. The furniture builders came, they built everything. We got the units staged in about 2 weeks. And then over the next 2 weeks, my wife basically spent that time interviewing different cleaning companies, different contractors, different cleaners. And after about 4 weeks, all 6 units were fully ready to go with the cleaners in place, storage facility in place. Everything was ready to go, and we flew back. And then we basically now, at this point, have 21 units in Dallas and Philadelphia altogether. And during that time period, of course, there's many things that happened that I have not included in this video. How we built our back end, how we built the company infrastructure, how we are basically hiring our VAs, how are we handling guest communications, guest protocols, how are we handling guest check-ins, guest checkouts. There's so many things I did in this business to automate about 95% of it, and the other 5% the VAs handle 24/7, 7 days a week, to where I'm not working in the business anymore, I'm working on the business. And those are two very important things, because in the beginning there was a time where I was answering every phone call, texting every guest, messaging it for any problems, and I realized I'm working in my business. I don't want another full-time job, right? I want a fully automated business that's delivering me passive income every single month without any headaches whatsoever. So I implemented so many things throughout that time, different channel managers, different automation software, training virtual employees in a certain way to handle guest issues and guest problems, that now I'm currently living in Canada. My business is running in Philadelphia and Dallas, and I'm actually furnishing properties while overseas, all remotely, hiring remotely, doing everything remotely now. So I'll cover a lot of that in the future on different videos, and there's a whole segment on pricing, dynamic pricing, pricing algorithms, SEO, taking proper pictures, looking at different markets, different market trends, occupancy levels, size of your apartments, whether you're going to do apartments or houses, how to talk to the landlords. There's so many different things I'm going to cover in future videos on what I use to scale this business from 0 to 60K a month, all within the last 6 months. Now I'm going to go over some financials on exactly how much money I was making in the beginning and early stages of this company, and how much I'm making now, and what it took to get to this point. December, 5 units, $14,077 in revenue. January, 7 units, $19,900 in revenue. February, 10 units, $23,000 in revenue. Now March came. March is when we added 6 more units in Dallas, and at this time the country pretty much opened back up. There were no more crazy lockdowns. Everything was fully open. Occupancy went through the roof. Our average revenue rate went through the roof. I increased our cleaning fees. I basically optimized the business and lowered our costs on a lot of things, and our revenue for that month was around $38,000. So we made the jump from $23,000 the month before to $38,000 the very next month. Now when April came, we did not expand in April. We stayed stable, and all I really wanted to this point was keep the company profits and pay off all of our debt. Now remember, all these units, everything was basically funded on credit cards, line of credits, everything. So we took the revenue for April, which is about $40,000, took all that money and paid off everything at that point. We were completely debt free, have no debt on us whatsoever, didn't expand, and we're just basically able to relax for that 1 month. So now we're in May. This time I expanded to 2 more properties in Dallas, and the revenue for that month was $50,000. We finally broke the $50,000 range at about 18 units through Dallas and Philadelphia. And at the end of May, I myself personally, me and my wife, we moved out of Philadelphia and moved back to Canada for other reasons. Now this time, we really couldn't expand the business anymore because we were so busy with the move. But what we did do was we increased our nightly rates for all of our units throughout, knowing the summer was going to be busy. And in June, with 18 units, we grossed $54,000. Now, close to the end of June, I was working on a deal with another apartment complex for 3 more units in Dallas, Texas. As that deal closed within the first week of July, we got all those units furnished fully remotely while I wasn't even living in the country at that time. My whole team in Dallas took care of everything for me, and we got everything fully ready, operational within 4 to 5 days. As those units were done, we got them booked on Airbnb right away. Full long bookings, 2 months, 1 month, 3 weeks right away. And we finished the month of July off with $62,000 in revenue. Now remember, all these numbers are revenue. My expenses really vary month to month, and I can tell you confidently my profit margins, my net profit margins are above 40%. They average currently right now from 40 to 45%, sometimes even higher depending on the month. Now the only way that happens is because my business is very lean. There's no added bulk, there's no added overhead. I try to stay as lean as possible to collect as much net profit as possible. Now remember, Everything that I'm telling you is completely automated. This whole business, every single thing is completely automated. Nobody calls my phone for anything. Nobody messages me for anything. Not a single guest calls me for any issues or problems. My VAs, my cleaners, everybody communicates with themselves. Me and my wife now, we just sit back, relax, and we just basically reap the profits. So now really the goal of this business is to blitz scale as fast as possible, acquire as many units as possible in different locations, hot destinations, and you really have to decide, do you want to expand with townhomes and single family houses, or do you want to expand fast with apartments? There's risks to both, there's benefits to both, you make more money with certain ones. It really depends on your risk profile and really how involved you are with your business and how really automated you want it to get. So currently right now, I'm only working with apartments due to personal reasons, and I'll explain why and why I prefer apartments rather than single family homes and townhomes in future videos. I'll explain to you guys exactly the net margins on each, how much money you can make on each, and the amount of occupancy levels you can expect on each on different locations and markets. And it really depends on, like I said, how involved you want to be with your business. There's a lot more things to notice and a lot more things to think of when you're doing single family homes that sleep 16 people, such as laundry, turnover time, linen turnover. Like there's a lot of things that you have to figure out in this business model that if you want to expand, you have to solve those problems right away. There's a lot of Airbnb hosts with 1 or 2 or 3 properties even. It's really not that hard to handle. Anyone can do it. Now, when you're at the point of 20 and over, when you're getting to 50, when you're getting to 75 and 100, some hosts have 100 properties, then it really becomes how can you solve these problems, how can you expand and grow, and how can you automate about 95% of your business to where no one's ever calling you for anything anymore, and you're just sitting back and making big executive level decisions. So for those of you wondering, I do have a course that I'm currently working on. It basically covers every single thing in detail on what I did to expand my business, how I automate everything, how I do my pricing strategies, how I handle guest check-in checkouts, how I handle linen turnover services, the best furniture to get, the best type of furniture, where to get discounts on furniture, bulk supplies, where I buy everything, how to convince landlords to let you arbitrage your property, the exact script that I use, the exact words that I say to landlords and apartment owners on how I get permission to use their properties for my Airbnb business, the exact methods that I use to find these property owners, to find these landlords, to find these investors, the exact cold calling strategies that I use. There's so many things that I'm going to cover in this course I'm currently working on. I'll show you how to basically grow your Airbnb business from 0 to 50K a month within the first 6 months. It's entirely possible. I've done it. And this business model, guys, is very unique to where you don't need a $300,000 down payment. You don't need a $200,000 down payment. You don't need amazing credit. You don't have to pay property taxes. You don't have to go through a bank for anything. You don't have to get a mortgage. You don't have to do a lot of the traditional things you would have to do when buying a traditional regular real estate property. The only thing you're really going to be paying for up front is your furniture costs. It can average really from $3,000 to $5,000 depending on where you buy it from. It can even average up to $2,000 depending on if you want to go Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist shopping. And then the only other thing you're going to have to pay for is your first month rent and your last month rent. And sometimes you can even negotiate a no security deposit, a less security deposit. It really depends how good you're negotiating. So your startup cost really on average for a 1-bedroom apartment is around $5,000. That $4,000 to $5,000 investment in furniture can bring you realistically around $5,000 a month in revenue. Your profit on that could be anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000. So your $5,000 investment is getting you anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 a month net. Tell me any other investment property or investment business that you can do that will you take $5,000 that returns $2,000 to $3,000 a month every single month on average with very low startup costs, not a lot of experience needed. It's very simple, guys. It's really not that hard. Anyone can do it. I knew myself personally of a girl who worked at Whole Foods, and she had about 7 apartments herself. I have an engineering background with a minor in comp-sci. I work as an engineer full-time. I have a good analytical mindset. I'm smart at math. I can do the exact same thing, but I can do it much better, much faster, much quicker, and I have capital, and I have a full-time job. It pays me a lot of money too. So I used, all of those things to basically give me that confidence and boost to blitzscale this business as fast as possible and to grow as quickly as possible. You guys can follow me on Instagram at HumzaZafarBNB. That's HUMZAZAFARBNB on Instagram. The actual link in the description. And you guys can also follow this channel, like, comment, subscribe. And I'll be releasing a lot more information, a lot of free information on how basically to be a great Airbnb host, how to get super host status, and all the other things that I mentioned, and how to blitzscale your business from 0 to $50,000 a month in revenue, which is in 6 months, which is entirely possible for anyone that just has $5,000 to start with. So thank you everybody for tuning in and watching in. I hope you have a great day. Until next time, peace out.